and we're here today to discuss the Shared Work Program. So, excuse me, this is just a few of the things that we're going to go over today. So we're going to be discussing what the Shared Work Program is, what the benefits of the program are, the eligibility, how to apply or how to renew a Shared Work Plan, some of the program expansions due to COVID-19, some payment information. We'll go over some resources, and we'll do a question and answer session as well here towards the end. Now, with the question and answers, if you can please use the Q&A feature to ask the questions throughout the session. We'll try to respond to you as quickly as we can as we go. Please note we cannot answer any specific questions due to your plan, or to your employees due to information security. And again, as just another friendly reminder, it is being recorded, so just be mindful of that when you're asking questions. All right, so what is the Shared Work Program? So the Shared Work Program is offered by the Department of Labor, and it's a program that's used as an alternative to layoffs. So the purpose of the program is to allow you as an employer to reduce your employees' hours weekly. You can do that anywhere from 10 to 60%. So using a 40-hour work week as an example, that's anywhere from 4 hours a week up to 24 hours that you can reduce them. And then they receive a supplemental payment from Shared Work based on that percentage of reduction. So this just helps you as a business when your business faces a downturn, and it helps maintain that business continuity. All right, so we just want to share some stats with you so far. So normally in a year, we get about 230 applications for Shared Work. Due to COVID, since in the last 8 months or so, between March of this year to October, we've received a little over 1,200 applications for Shared Work, and that's affecting a little over 25,000 employees. During that 8-month period, we've actually provided about $113 million in Shared Work payments, and that's also including those federal plus-ups. And another good stat that I am sure that you all would be interested in is how long it's taking us to complete these applications. So it's taking us on average about 15 days. So that's, when I say that, I mean from when we receive the application, review it, process all your approval paperwork, and mail or email that back to you. So it's taking us about 15 days to respond. All right, so now what are some of the benefits of the program? So obviously, one of the biggest is that it avoids a total layoff. It also, with the program, you're able to reduce your employees at 10 to 60%, like I mentioned earlier. So again, using that example of a 40-hour work week, you're looking at being able to reduce your employees anywhere from 4 hours up to 24 hours a week while on the program. Another benefit to the program that I like to feature is the flexibility, because you have that 10 to 60% reduction that you're allowed on the program. It does not have to be the same reduction each week. So it can vary, and it can vary based on your workload. So if you want to use, say, a 10% reduction one week and work slows down a little bit more, and the next week you need to use that 60, you can do so without actually having to submit any other paperwork to us. It also helps you with reductions in payroll costs, and it also helps with costs associated with hiring, rehiring, training new employees. And you're also able to, you're also able to preserve your skilled workforce. And it also boosts morale within the company. All right, now some of the benefits for the employees. One of the biggest is the fact that they get to maintain their fringe benefits. So any health, retirement, dental, those are things that they would have to worry about if they were fully laid off. So that kind of helped them. It's one less worry that they have while facing this downturn in business and reduction in hours. They don't have to worry about where those benefits are coming from.
Ashley,
They also, go ahead.
can I just sneak in and answer a question quick? I hit answer live instead of answer by text or by writing, and I don't want to miss this question for Paul. He wanted to know if he'll be able to get a copy of the recording afterwards. So yes, this will be available.
Yes,
Thanks,
it should
Paul.
be posted, I believe, on the website after.
Okay, I'll try not to interrupt again. Thanks.
Oh, not a problem at all. I don't mind it. So again, so just going over some benefits for the employees. So again, this also, while they're on shared work, they maintain ready to go back when business increases. So they're readily available when that work goes back up. Like I said previously, it does boost morale. It gives them some type of income security. And another great benefit for employees is if they work elsewhere outside of your employment, if they have a part-time job or some other job, it does not affect the payment that they receive through shared work. So we actually encourage it. If your employees do work elsewhere, that's fine. They don't have to report those wages to us while they're on the shared work program. So that means that they would receive whatever income from the hours they work through their regular employer, whatever they're working through that part-time, and then they'll still receive that supplemental payment through shared work, and it won't be reduced because they have another job. All right, so here's an example of how shared work compares to partial regular unemployment as well as to a layoff. I think this is a really good example for everyone to kind of see how everything works. So in this example, we have John. He works 40 hours a week. He earns $20 an hour, and he's going to be reduced 20 hours a week through shared work or 50%. Okay. So we'll start off first with the 100% layoff example. So through regular unemployment, if he was fully laid off based on his wages, he'd qualify for about $400 a week in his weekly benefit rate. Now, if he were to file for regular unemployment with that 50% reduction, so he'd be receiving 20 hours of his regular pay, which would be $400 from his employer that's reducing his work. Then through regular partial unemployment, weekly he'd have to report what he's working, that $400, his gross payment, and they take 2/3 of that gross amount, and then they take that out of that 400 weekly benefit amount and pay him the balance. So weekly he'd be receiving 400 from his employer for the 20 hours worked. 133 would be the regular partial unemployment payment, totaling 533 for the week gross. Okay. Now with shared work, because we don't use that 2/3 calculation, John is going to receive the 20 hours at $400 from his employer, and he's going to receive 50% of that unemployment rate. So $200, totaling $600 weekly through shared work. So as you can see, that's a $67 difference between regular partial unemployment versus shared work. And that's a $200 difference versus from a layoff to shared work. So as you can see, either way, shared work would benefit your employees because they'd be receiving a higher rate because we don't use that 2/3 calculation. All right, now who's eligible for shared work? So for shared work, Connecticut employers have to have paid any of their taxes. They have to be up to date, on their taxes with the Department of Labor. You can have the minimum requirement for participants is at least 2 permanent employees. The program's only applicable for full-time or part-time permanent employees. It can't be subsidized for seasonal layoffs. Your employees' wages and hours cannot be reduced less than 10% or more than 60%, and you can't eliminate those fringe benefits. If your employees are part of a union, that is acceptable. There's an actual section on the application. So the only extra requirement is that the union has to sign off on the participation for shared work. And there is a small section on the application for that. And you can include hourly and salaried employees for shared work. All right, so now how to apply. So the application is fairly easy. It's nothing crazy. It's a 3-page application. You can find it on our website at sharedworkct.com. The easiest and the quickest way to submit the application to us once completed would be by email to dol.sharedwork@ct.gov, or you can fax it to our fax number, which is 860-263-6681. And you also have the option to mail it. The mailing address is on the application. So you can send that in. If you choose to mail it, you can send that in once you have the application filled out. We normally say that you can expect a notification from us within 30 days. But like I said earlier, currently we're averaging about 15 days to review, process, and mail out completed applications. All right, so now how to renew your existing shared work plan. So normally, pre-COVID, when you open up a shared work application or plan, it automatically stays open for 26 weeks from whatever effective date that you've chosen. And we allow up to one extension per plan per year. So potentially your plan could stay open for 1 year total, inclusive of the extension. Because of COVID, we've expanded that a little. So we're now allowing up to 3 extensions per plan. So that means that your initial shared work plan that was open at 26 weeks could potentially run up to 2 years if needed. And the shared work extension request is easy. It's a one pager, nothing crazy. We try to minimize some of the paperwork as much as we can. So you can locate that at our website. Again, that's sharedworkct.com. You click on extension request. You can fill out the form. And again, the fastest and easiest way to send it to us would be by fax or email, but you always have that option of mailing in if necessary. All right, so let's just go over some of the shared work expansions due to COVID-19. I've mentioned some already, but just to kind of give you a reminder. So one was the extensions that we just went over. We allow one extension. Currently, due to COVID, we're allowing up to 3 extensions per plan. Another good feature is generally shared work is charged as regular unemployment, even though it does have less of an impact because your employees would be receiving partial benefits instead of full unemployment, where they would be receiving if they were laid off. Now, due to federal reimbursements, the shared work program actually is not being charged. So for taxable employers, from April 4th of this year all the way through February 6th of 2021, no taxable employer will receive charges for shared work. As for reimbursable employers, they will not be charged for any weeks from April 4th of 2020 through December 26th of 2020. So again, that's, obviously with everything that's going on right now with the pandemic and COVID-19, that's another good addition to the plan to help you, the employers, out. As well, prior to COVID-19, we used to have a 7-day period where you had to notify your employees of the participation in the program prior to submitting your application. Because of COVID, we have an actual plan summary. It's also located on our website, so sharedworkct.com. And you can use that summary, and all it is just to notify the employees that you'd be participating in shared work. They can sign off, and you can just attach that to your shared work application for us to process. It makes it a little easier and a little faster without having to wait that 7 days. All right, so payment options. I think this is probably a big one for employees. So for payments, we no longer issue paper checks. So it's either a direct deposit that they can set up online at filectui.com, or if they don't set up anything, your employees would receive payments through a debit card, through a KeyBank card that gets issued through KeyBank, and it's mailed from them. It normally takes about 5 to 7 business days to arrive when we release their first payment. And they always want to hold on to that card because those cards are good for about 3 years. So if at any point they're filing, if it be through shared work or regular unemployment, it's good that they have that card because the payments can go on there. Now they can also change their payment method at any time online at that filectui.com. I always suggest that employees should set up that account because it's also a good access for them. They can check their payment history, they can check their method of payments, etc. So it's just a good account for them to have if they want information in regards to their benefits. Okay. All right. And just a reminder, I want to make sure if you have any questions, please make sure you're using that question and answer feature. Once we're through here, we'll make sure that we get everybody's questions and we go over any questions or concerns that you have. Okay. So now just some of the resources for shared work. So I think obviously our website is a great resource. It has all of our information on there. That's that sharedworkct.com. You're going to find all of our our application, so the shared work application, the extension requests, general information about the program. I honestly think that our frequently asked questions is probably the best resource that you can kind of have and to refer to when you have questions about the program. We try to put as much information in there and keep it as user friendly so that you can get the response that you need as quickly as possible. We also now have Sherry, who is our virtual agent. You can chat with her 24/7. And again, that's on our website, which is sharedworkct.com. So again, if you have any questions or concerns, I think that's probably the best spot to go first so that you can review the documents and get the information that you need. All right. So I want to thank you all again for joining us today and taking your time to learn about the shared work program. So we're going to obviously want you to use that question and answer option here so that we can go over any questions, concerns that you have. This will be the time that you can pick my brain, go over any concerns that you may have about the program so that we can explain everything to you. And again, just a reminder, the session is being recorded, so just be careful with the information that you're sharing. Again, we can't answer specific questions to plans or employees due to information security. All right.
Thanks, Ashley. We do have, it looks like 11 questions.
All
Do you want me to
right.
get started with that?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. So the first question is, what is the difference between this program opposed to alternating two full-time employees? Basically, have employee number one work week 1, then collect benefits in week 2, while his peer works week 2.
I mean, right off the top of my head, I'll tell you that having your employees file on and off for unemployment is a bit of a burden because each week that when they stop working, that stops their claim. So every time that they're fully laid off again, they have to go back online for regular unemployment, reopen up that claim, submit all the information again to file for the 1 week, to then go back to work the 1 week. Where with shared work, which it's another feature that I neglected to mention earlier, is your employees don't have to file week to week. You, the employer, once you're approved, you're going to receive what we call a weekly certification. So it's a list of your employees. And all you do is each week you put that percentage of reduction and you submit it to us. And we process those payments for your employees. So your employees don't have to do anything on their end except some initial paperwork for us to get their plan set up. And then after that, we file for them weekly. I think for me, I think that's probably one of the biggest issues that I would find with having that kind of 1 week on, 1 week off with employees and alternating them. I don't know if Jill, if you have any other thoughts on that, but I think that would be the biggest one that comes to my head.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and unfortunately, our system, I mean, with unemployment, everything it's done online, and it can be sometimes difficult to get through to somebody, especially with the high volume right now that we're receiving because of COVID. So this is definitely one of the features of shared work that I think is a positive that employees like as well.
All right, let's go to our next question here. Can fringe benefits be offered, but with a proportional reduction based upon hours worked, i.e. for union employees?
And for shared work purposes, I mean, any of the fringe benefits that are offered are supposed to be maintained. So it's almost like there's no difference between when they were working whatever their regular hours were versus that reduction. Um, I think especially when you're involving a union, if there was any type of changes like that, I would say that your union would have the union would have to sign off on that um, prior to you starting the plan. And I would say if you're going to make any changes to any benefits, I would do that prior to setting up any shared work plan. That way, it doesn't affect your participation in the program.
All righty, let's see. Our next question is, do we need to notify our payroll company once approved for shared work?
I would probably say, I think that probably would be a good idea just to let them know what you're doing. I mean, week to week, it's not necessarily that we need anything from your payroll company. For us, like I said, it's going to be that weekly certification we send you. So however you designate or whomever you designate in your company to complete that for you, all that is just having to track what the reduction is for each employee each week. so that we can process their payment. So if your payroll company is going to be handling that, then you definitely want to let them know so that they know what they need to do and what they need to send to us. But otherwise, like I said, I mean, if somebody at your company is going to be taking care of it, there's really no issue as far as your payroll company. There shouldn't be any changes.
Okay. What does an employee need to do to be in the program?
The
Can
employee,
an employee elect to not be in the program?
yes. So shared work is voluntary. So the employees can elect to participate or not. If they choose not to participate, that's up to them. You just don't have to include them in your plan, and they can file for regular unemployment if they choose. Now, and I'm sorry, what was the first part of the question?
What does an employee need to do to be in the program?
All right. So as far as participating in the program, really the only thing that the employees need to do or complete in order for us to start processing payments is what we call a new claim form. It's just for us to get their general information in order for us to set up their unemployment claim so that we can start processing those shared work payments. After that, there's really nothing that they need to do. I mean, they continue working for you, making themselves available, and you as the employer are just submitting those payments each week whenever there's a reduction.
All right, great. So the next question is, how are taxes withheld and tax paperwork managed for each employee?
That's an option for the employees. So when they're filling out the new claim form, there's an actual question there that asks them if they want taxes taken out, yes or no. If they choose to have the taxes taken out, it's a standard amount. So it's 10% federal and 3% for state taxes that they take. So it's a total of 13%. So again, that can't be changed. So they'll have the option to say yes to take them out or no. And again, it's up to the employee, however they want to set that up. Excuse me.
Alrighty, the next question is, officers and principals are employees. Are they eligible?
If they are reporting wages to the Department of Labor, then yes. If they're considered like 1099 and not reporting wages, then no, they would not qualify. I kind of go with the when in doubt, you can always add them. We can take a look and we'll notify you if they're not eligible or not.
Alrighty, what is the time frame for payments to the employees? Will it follow their typical payroll deposits?
As far as payroll deposits, that can be different by company. I mean, I know some companies may pay weekly, biweekly, etc. As far as unemployment, shared work payments are concerned, our weeks are always Sunday to Saturday, and we're always paying for the week that just passed. So, like today, Thursday, we're processing payments for last week, Sunday to Saturday. Um, Initially, when you're setting up a shared work plan, it can take some time for us to get everything set up, the new claims, and get that first payment processed. But once that first payment is processed, and then you the employer, start sending in those weekly certs on a regular basis, the payments are normally processed within 2 to 3 days, I'd say roughly, from when you submit them to us. Monday is always the first day that you can submit a weekly certification for the week that just passed. So it's always good if you're able to send that weekly certification in as early in the week as you can so that we can process it earlier for your employees. Currently, we're caught up on payments, excuse me, and there's no real lag in payments with the shared work program.
All right, thanks. Here's the next question. Do we have to reduce hours for entire workforce listed on application, or should we group the employees in units to break them up?
Well, we do ask you to break them up in units as far as when you're sending in the application. That way we have an idea of the employees and what you're looking to reduce for each unit. You don't have to reduce everybody each week. Like I said, you do have that flexibility based on your workload. So it can change, the percentage can change week to week as well as employee to employee. You still want to make sure that you're meeting that minimum requirement though of the two employees being reduced each week. And again, shared work is flexible. And I don't think I've mentioned this, that if while on the plan, say you have weeks that you have work to offer all your employees and you don't need to use the plan, there's nothing you have to do. All you do is is nothing. You don't have to send in a weekly cert. You just don't apply for that week. We don't issue payments. Then once the reduction occurs again, you just start submitting that weekly certification again, and we'll begin processing them normally.
All right, our next question is, how do your employees file for their shared work benefit for the week? Is it similar to filing unemployment?
No, they don't file. Like I said, that's one of the benefits of the program is your employees do not file weekly. While on shared work, you, the employer, are submitting that information to us. You're letting us know, John Smith was reduced 20% this week, and then we issue the payment. That's what that weekly certification is. And that you would receive once we approve your plan, and we'll send that to you so that you can fill that out each week and submit to us for processing.
All right, I'm not sure what the next question, I'm not really sure what they're asking, but as an employer who is in need of additional employees at our company during our busy time now, how can I be a recipient of the available employees?
I don't know if I understand the question either. The shared work program is to help you in regards to when the work is reduced. So, if you have more work currently, I would say the shared work program probably isn't for you right now. You can look at CT hires online and see, and you probably connect with someone in our employment services department that could help you better with that if you're looking for some type of new hires or temporary workers.
All right, thanks. Here's the next question. What is the top error seen in the application? Just wanted to avoid any mistakes. From the employer, what do we see when applications come in that maybe the employer has missed? So this employer just wants to make sure he doesn't miss anything on the application.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I'm trying to think of probably the most common mistake that I see. I think a lot is the fringe benefit and the seniority question. There's two questions on there that's going to ask you if the fringe benefits are going to be maintained while on the program, as well as any seniority if applicable. All we want to ensure with those questions is that none of those benefits are being taken away or reduced while on shared work. So even if it's not applicable to you, you can answer those questions yes, as long as you are not reducing any of those benefits to the employees. And make sure that you sign the forms as well. I think that's probably one that I've been noticing a lot lately is on the second page. A lot of people have been neglecting to actually sign the application and date it for us to complete the processing. I think those are my top two. Do you have anything that you can think of, Jill?
Well, I was just going to say, as the applications come in, if there is anything missing or anything that we think is maybe answered incorrectly, we would notify you by email. So as soon as you get back to us, we can move forward with the process.
Yeah.
All right, the next question is, how does the employer administer the program? Do we go online and tell you weekly what their hours were? How do you get out of the program once you start using it?
So as far as what you have to do weekly, it's going to be that weekly certification that I discussed earlier. So it's a form that we'll send you, and that has to be filled out weekly and sent to us for any weeks that you're looking to reduce and for us to process payments. So on that form, all the information that you're providing is the date, the weekend date that you're looking to have paid, and the percentage of reduction for each employee so we can process their payments. You can fax, email, or mail that to us for processing each week. Now, as far as when you're done with the plan, there's no real action that you have to take. When you're done using it, you just stop submitting those weekly certifications, and your plan will automatically expire after that 26 weeks. If you want to participate further after those 26 weeks, then you'd want to process that extension. But you don't, again, if you don't need it, you just stop using it.
Okay, the next question is, for a part-time employee that already has fluctuating hours, do we determine the right percentage? How do we determine the right percentage for the week? For example, employee A worked 32 hours in 1 week of the month, 40 hours week 2 of the month, and 24 hours week 3 of the month.
Yeah. So when it comes to employees with varying hours, I think the easiest way to determine a standard work week is first to see what they were actually hired for initially. So if you're able to get that, then that's what you'd want to use in order for that calculation for the percentage of reduction. If they weren't hired for a standard amount of hours weekly initially, then what you want to figure out is, I would look back about 90 days, and you want to get an average of the hours that they're working weekly, and then use that as their standard work week in order to calculate that benefit, the percentage of reduction, excuse me. That standard work week is probably that's the key to the reduction. So you want to make sure you establish that in order to get your calculation.
Okay, thanks. The next question is, how would this work for salaried employees? Can you explain that further?
Yeah, so salaried employees can participate. Now, with salaried employees, they would have to experience a reduction in hours and salary. So they're almost, the easiest way to explain it is you're kind of treating them like hourly in order to figure out what that reduction is. Obviously, there has to be a reduction in hours and salary in order for them to qualify, because they can't be receiving the regular salary on top of shared work. There has to be some reduction in order for them to qualify.
All righty.
So I
Next
hope that
question.
answers your question. Mhm.
All right, thank you. Next question is, can program be used to alternate 2 full-time employees to work a week at a time as opposed to a reduced number of hours in 1 week?
No, shared work is not set up for a 1 week on, 1 week off. As far as if it's full unemployment, I'm assuming that's what they were asking, right? Did I get that correct?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Sorry, the way the question read, I was assuming that they were asking if they're alternating work between 2 employees as far as 1 week on, 1 week off, like not working at all and working. Or did I misinterpret that?
I don't know. Whoever asked that question, if they wouldn't mind typing it back in now, I am not able to locate it. I have somebody coming in here and then I hit done and it goes away on me.
Yeah, sorry. If you can just retype that question in, I just want to make sure I understand and I'm giving you the right response.
All right, the next question is, what if an employee is out of work due to COVID reasons and has lack of work or no work hours during a week?
Mhm. Yeah, that's fine. So what happens is, if for whatever reason they're not able to work, especially with COVID, so what they would do is you can notify us, just sending us an email stating this employee um, last day of work was as of this day, and we'll remove them off of the shared work for the time being. If they choose, they can file for regular unemployment on their own to see if they'll qualify. And then once they've returned back, all you have to do is start putting them back on that weekly certification with their percentage of reduction for us to submit payments. And the weeks that they're out, you just would write in DNP, which means do not pay, or you just leave that section blank for their name, and then we won't process any payment.
All right, the next question is, we laid off some employees back in April, so they've used some of their 46 weeks of benefits. Can we switch them to shared work, and how does their participation count towards the 46 weeks? Is it in addition to the number of weeks they are eligible?
I'm not sure where the 46 weeks is coming from. Unemployment is 26 weeks, regular unemployment. So when they open up a claim, the claim will say open for 1 year. So if they filed in April, it would be effective in April, and it would run through, so April 2020 through April 2021. And then 26 weeks of full benefits would be put into their claim. I kind of compare it to almost like it's like a checking account. You have an account open for a year. Each week that you're collecting, if it be through shared work or regular unemployment, you're reducing that balance. So with shared work, potentially they could receive more, with shared work, they potentially could have those benefits longer since they're not taking out full unemployment. It's only a partial benefit. So all it would be really, if they have a claim open, once they get onto shared work, we're just adding them to the program, taking them off regular, putting them on shared work, and then we start processing payments. All those monies are still coming out of that same 26 weeks balance that they initially received back in April.
All right, the next question is, I thought if a salaried employee worked any portion of the week, employers need to pay them for the full week.
As far as questions in regards to changing anyone from salaried to hourly, I think the best reference I could give you is to contact our wage and workplace standards unit. And again,
Right.
in regards to shared work, in order for a salaried person to qualify, you have to be reducing their salary. They can't be receiving 40 hours of payment each week from the employer. And on top of that, receiving shared work. There has to be a reduction in that pay and the hours. So if there's any questions as far as employment law, what you have to do in order to do that, to convert them, or however, I think wage and workplace standards is the best place to call, to contact.
Right. And a good rule of thumb is if you're not able to reduce their hours, then unfortunately they would not be able to participate in shared work. I mean, reduce their earnings, their salary. So if you're not able to reduce it in line with their hourly reduction, then they wouldn't be eligible.
Correct. Thanks. I'm trying to see if I can find a wage and workplace number for them.
And then I think this goes back to the question we weren't sure. It says, yes, I would have worker 1 work a full week and worker 2 not work at all, then reverse it. So basically 1 employee would be reduced to 0 hours in a week. So
yeah,
I think
unfortunately,
go ahead.
No, sorry. What I interpreted before was right. So with shared work, unfortunately, 1 week on and 1 week off, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work with shared work, excuse me. So in order to qualify, again, you still have to stay within those parameters week to week of that 10 to 60% reduction. If your employee is reduced less than 10%, excuse me, or more than 60%, we cannot submit a shared work payment. So in that scenario, shared work wouldn't work.
All right, we have another question here. Can you choose select individuals to reduce their hours, or does the whole group or department have to have reduced hours collectively?
No, you can select individuals. You don't have to put on everybody from the department or everybody from the company in order to participate.
All right, next question. If another federal package is passed, would an employee enrolled in this program be eligible for the additional federal unemployment benefit?
That honestly, I can't speak to 100% because it's going to be based on whatever the federal guidelines are given. So, I mean, if they're given to us and they allow us to pay the shared work employees, then yes. But again, that's going to be up to how the guidelines are set up from the feds. It wouldn't be up to us in the program.
Alrighty, what's the maximum weekly benefit for employees?
Right now, the maximum benefit for a total layoff is $667 a week.
And is PTO accrual a benefit that is to be maintained at the same level along with medical, dental, and retirement?
Yes, we would include that as a fringe benefit.
Alrighty, the next question. If you have full work weeks in between reduced weeks, does this extend the 26-week term? So if you have full work weeks in between.
Yeah, because like I said, I mean, you have to think of it like an account. The 26-week balance is being put in there, and each week that they're receiving a payment, they're reducing from that balance. So on shared work, potentially that 26 weeks could last 52. It's going to be based on what the reduction is each week and how many weeks that they're receiving it. So, I mean, in that scenario, yes, if you the employer are only reducing them, say 2 weeks out of the month instead of 4 weeks, then yes, their balance should last longer.
Alrighty. This sounds like a no-brainer as compared to having the employees file for unemployment. Am I missing something? Is there any downside to this program?
No, I don't think you're missing anything. That's, I think, the reason why we've been trying to promote this program as much as we are, especially now with the pandemic. It is, yeah, I have to agree with you. It's kind of is a no-brainer. If you're able to do it, it's beneficial to the employees and to you, the employer. I can't really think of a downside. I don't know about you, Jill, but for me, the program is pretty simple, and we try to make it as easy for all employees and employers as we can.
Right. I don't see any downside as well.
Yeah.
Okay, the next question is, what do you use as the matrix of how many hours they work? Their hours have already been reduced before the application.
So again, you want to revert back to that standard work week. So what were they hired for? So I know, especially now with COVID, a lot of employers say have been reducing their work because of COVID, the pandemic, et cetera. But say they were hired at 40 hours a week and you've been reducing them to 32 now. If you jump on the shared work program, you would still want to base it on that 40 hours, because if you had work available, that's what they would be working, would be that 40 hours. So just revert back to that standard work week.
Alrighty, let's see. Is an employer allowed to hire any new employees while participating in the shared work program? What effect would hiring a new employee have?
Yes, you're able to hire new employees when needed. Just a couple of examples. A lot of times employers will hire because either say they had somebody else leave the company. Sometimes you need to hire someone specific to do a certain job that's needed at the company, which is understandable. We actually have we call it a request to add form. So if you have a new employee that you've added on and need to add to the plan eventually, you can fill out that form and we'll review it to see if we can add them on. And basically all we're looking for is that you're just aligning yourself with the program, that you're not hiring people, new employees, excuse me, instead of giving those hours to your current employees. I can tell you my years here with the unit, I haven't seen any employer that we've denied because of an issue like that, where they're just adding employees instead of sharing the hours that they have with the other employers.
Alrighty, the next question, were employees in shared work program earlier in 2020 eligible for the additional federal benefit package?
Yes. So the shared work employees this year were eligible for those federal plus ups, that additional $600 earlier in the year, as well as the lost wage assistance. That was the $300. That was what? That was 3 months ago now. Back in, what was that? It was August and September. So yes, they
August,
were
right?
included. Again, any type of federal monies that are given to us from the feds, excuse me, as long as the guidelines say that we can include the shared work participants, we will.
All right. How would we handle a part-time employee where their hours and wages fluctuate based on them being a tipped employee?
I'm not sure if I understand that. So their hours fluctuate because of tips. I mean, tips would be in addition to whatever hours that they're working. Shared work, we don't really base on what you're paying them hourly for the reduction. We're looking at the hours you're reducing them. So you have to determine their standard work week. And again, even if their hours vary week to week, you want to go back and use that 90-day window to get an average of what their standard hours are and use that as your baseline when calculating that percentage of reduction. If they're receiving tips, or like I said, as far as what they're grossing weekly for the hours that they're working, that's not something you have to report to us. We're just looking for the hours reduced. And that's how we create that percentage of reduction.
Next question, what is the percentage of pay employees will receive per hour missed? Or how can I explain to employees how much money they will receive for reduced time?
I don't like basing it on hours because that's not how unemployment is calculated. So if you actually go to the website, if you look at our frequently asked questions, I'm a visual person. So there's an actual chart on there that'll show you how we calculate unemployment benefits weekly. So once you figure that out, because we base it off of quarterly earnings. So say you're filing now, just to give you an example, you're filing now, we're in the fourth quarter of 2020. We're going to go back and we're looking at the last 5 quarters, the first 4 completed. And then we're going to take your 2 highest quarters, add them together, get an average, and divide that out by 26 weeks. That's how we create that unemployment rate. So like the example earlier, with the John who works 40 hours a week at $20 an hour, he'd qualify for about $400 a week in unemployment. So I think that'd probably be the first step, is you want to kind of have them calculate that regular unemployment. And then if they're going to be reduced 20%, using that $400 as an example, they would get 20% of the 400, being $80 a week on shared work. I hope that makes sense. I think the frequently asked questions is probably the best way to look at that, to get the information you're looking for, so they can figure out that the baseline is going to be that unemployment rate first. And then that percentage just gets paid out through based on that.
Sorry, I was just typing a response here. Somebody wanted to know, well, what do they think will happen after February 6th? Will the employer likely be charged at that time? We don't really have any new information yet on that, but our website will be updated if there are any changes about the employer's charging.
Yes.
So let's see.
All right, and just before we get into our next question, I do want to just mention, because I can see something here in regards to some questions about the extensions of benefits. So right now, I mean, shared work participants, if they did exhaust their regular unemployment, could apply for the extensions. I believe most of the extensions are due to end at the end of this year. Again, I think this will be it's going to depend on the federal government and what they put forth, if there's going to be any extensions of those benefits. So I'm not sure if anybody had questions in regards to that. I know we've been receiving them in general in the unit. So a lot of that, when it comes to any type of extensions of benefits, extension of chargeability, et cetera, that's all going to be based on the federal government and whatever they set forth for us, to see if there's going to be any other benefits that we can have employees apply for, if for whatever reason they exhaust their benefits. Sorry, Jill, do we have another question?
Yes, we do. Let's see. Did I hear correctly that the shared work wages through 12/26 won't affect the employer's unemployment rate?
For reimbursable employers, they will not be charged from April 4th through December 26th. For taxable employers, they won't see charges from April 4th to, is it February 9th, 2021, I believe?
Let me look.
I can't remember. It was
Correct.
February 9th. Okay. All right. Any other questions?
There are some other questions here. Hang on.
Mm-hmm.
As a follow-up question to that, there's a question of the difference between reimbursable versus taxable.
Jill, you want to take that one?
Sure. So if you're a taxable employer, you report your wages quarterly, and you are rated each year by the Department of Labor, and you pay in on the first 15,000 of each of your employees' wages. If you're reimbursable, you would know that you're reimbursable because you're going to pay based on each unemployment claim dollar for dollar, and you're not paying in a quarterly or a tax on all of the wages. Okay, it looks like we still have some other questions here. We've read that shared work is not applicable to seasonal businesses. Are reduction in business hours due to seasonality changes eligible for the program, i.e. open but outdoor capacity closed, reduced, or closed a day or two of each week?
Yeah, that's fine. When we talk about seasonal employers or seasonal layoff, it would be when you're for a part of the year where your business actually closes, and you're not able to operate due to that seasonal change. A lot of it is, I think the one I can think off the top of my head would probably be even like landscaping. Say you have a business and you're closed for the winter for 3 or 4 months. That would be considered a seasonal layoff. If you have a business that slows down during a season, but you still are open, you're just reducing the work, then yes, you would still qualify for shared work.
Okay, another question. We have an employee who has been working for us for several months, but was previously on unemployment. How would that affect her shared work amount?
I mean, the shared work amount, it's not going to, there's really not going to be any change. The only thing I would say is that your employee, if they've already filed, would know what their weekly benefit rate is already, since they already established a claim. So they would just be receiving whatever percentage from shared work based off of that weekly benefit rate.
Next question is, my 2 highest quarters represented a robust pre-COVID window, much higher than now. Is that correct? So maybe you should explain if somebody files right now, what quarters we would be looking at.
Yeah, so again, we're in the fourth quarter. So if you're filing now, we're going back 5 quarters and we're using the first 4 completed. So that would be, that's third quarter of 19, fourth quarter 19, first and second quarter of 20. Potentially, we could also use the third quarter of 2020 if needed, but that's if you don't have enough in those first 4 quarters for us to get a rate for you. So yes, I mean, if your wages were higher from the third quarter of 19 through second quarter of 2020, then yes, that would be reflected when we calculate your rate.
Okay, the next question is, how does this impact employees who don't have 5 quarters in Connecticut? For example, we have an employee who was living and working out of state for most of 2019.
If they are not working in Connecticut and don't have any wages reportable to the state of Connecticut, they would not qualify for shared work. I mean, shared work is it's regular unemployment. You still have to qualify. So you still have to meet those general requirements. Shared work just gives you a little bit more benefits as far as and wiggle room when it comes to reduction, et cetera. So in order for them to qualify, they would have had to have worked here in the state and have wages for us to establish a rate for them. If they have no wages at all and never worked here, then unfortunately they wouldn't qualify. They can file for unemployment benefits in their state to see if they qualify for regular partial in the state in which they're working.
Right, and then if they do have, in the base period, they have a quarter of Connecticut wages, then we could request the wages from the out-of-state if they haven't been used yet in a prior out-of-state claim.
Yep, exactly. So, I mean, really the takeaway is they have to have some type of wages here in Connecticut that we can use. It doesn't have to be a full 4 quarters or 5 quarters. As long as they have some wages we can use to set up a benefit for them here, then we can request the other wages and get them started.
All right, the next question is, with regards to COVID-related circumstances, how is the program impacted if new mandated closures are required?
Again, I mean, if something happens and there is some type of a shutdown and your company isn't available to be open, at that point you would do what I had said earlier, is just send us a quick email letting us know that these participants are going to be fully laid off. We can remove them from the program and they can file for regular unemployment for whatever weeks that you're experiencing that shutdown. All right. So I think maybe I was going to say maybe one more question.
All right, so further clarification for salaried employees, they typically work 40 hours, but we need to reduce their hours by 25%. Because they're salaried, we would normally be required to pay them the full amount. But with this program, we could calculate the reduction of hours and supplement their pay?
Yes, you'd be reducing their pay. So if it's 25, you'd be reducing their pay by 25%, and then you would submit through shared work for the 25% of their unemployment. And they'd receive that 25% each week that they're experiencing that reduction. All right.
We do have some other questions, but if we're out of time, can we answer these? How are we going to answer these, Ashley?
Well, how many questions do we have?
We still have 5 questions.
5. I mean, I'm okay with staying a few minutes longer if everybody else is. But then we'll take those 5 questions and then we'll have to end the session.
All right. So here's the
go ahead.
next one. I had no wages in 2019 and started working in January of 2020. How will my benefit be calculated?
Again, we're going to go back the 5 quarters and look at the first 4. So if you worked in 2020, we'll be able to use those wages to calculate a rate for you.
Alrighty. Did you say to calculate the hours and wages of a tipped employee based on the 2 best quarters of the previous 4 quarters?
There's no difference between tipped or non-tipped employees. Again, whatever wages are reported for them here in the state, we're going to go back the 5 quarters, look at the first 4 completed, and use the 2 highest quarters of earnings. So you want to calculate, it's going to be that whatever their quarterly earnings are, whatever's reported to us, the 2 highest is what we're going to use to base their weekly benefit rate on.
Alrighty, I think we're good. I mean, if anyone has any, other questions, they can email or call in.
Yeah, definitely. You can.
Ashley, you've got the slide for that, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, we can go to the next slide. It'll give us the contact information. Our email address is dol.sharedworkct.gov. Phone number is 860-263-6660. So if you have any other questions, you can feel free to call or email, and we'll send you a response as soon as we're able. All right. Yeah, so here's, if you can see the screen, we have our contact information here listed. And again, our website is sharedworkct.com. And I believe when we're through with the survey, there'll be a quick little, excuse me, not the survey, when we're through with this webinar, there'll be a quick survey that if you could please take a minute or two to answer, just to get some feedback on how your thoughts on the webinar today, so that we can see if we can include anything else in future webinars. So again, we really appreciate you coming in, taking the time today, being with us. And hopefully you got some good information. Again, thank you. I hope you guys all have a nice day.
Thank you.